Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I want to talk a little bit about residency rejection surprises and a little bit about how hard it would be to get into medical school if you did want to go. I got a couple of emails from the last podcast like, oh, well, maybe I won't didn't do residency, but maybe I could go into medical school. And I'll tell you a little bit about both. So let's first start talking about the residency rejection surprises. I think that many of you have maybe worked somewhere or done appies somewhere or really thought you had a good relationship with a place and find that you were rejected. Or maybe you had a good experience with a number of VAs or something like that and you applied to the VA and they turned you down. You're like, what is going on? But other places have seen that you are a good applicant and have provided interviews. So again, I know that these surprises kind of come up and that you tend to dwell on the rejections more than the acceptances. But again, it's the match. It's more of a people thing than a place thing. And I'm going to guess that it had a lot more to do with one or two people that are there than it had anything really to do with you. For those of you that are kind of finding out now, it's February. It might be time to start looking at Phase 2. Again, I have the Phase 2 cover letter course. The way I run it is you sign up for the course. We immediately do something, which is to revise your cover letter for whichever site you wanted the most. And what you have then is the template, your unique template, to start working on the cover letters when we go into Phase 2. But I'm only going to be able to take a certain number, probably no more than 20 students for that one, just because it is spring break and everything has to be done over that weekend, and promising 24-hour turnaround makes it a little bit difficult, so I'll probably have to limit that. So if you're interested in help with Phase 2, I can do that, but I would do that sooner than later. But let's talk a little bit about medical school versus pharmacy school. Pharmacy school has this thing that they put out, and as a pre-pharmacy advisor, I saw this thing, and what you really want to do when you see something like this is really look for what's not there. And as we get into medical school stuff, you'll see how very different these things are. So, sorry. When you look at the application cycle, it goes for nearly the entire year, so mid-July to the end of June. And obviously that varies by school, and maybe I can actually make this a little bit bigger. You can see the top part here, and then I'll go to the bottom part and kind of comment on that. It says, how many pharmacy schools are there? How many schools are in the PharmCast? And, there are 142 schools. There are some that have not been able to get their accreditation. And so 134 PharmCast, 8 non-PharmCast. And then how many PharmCast applicants are there? So 13,324. At the bottom, in kind of a little asterisk, there's this is 2020, 2021 data. So this is last year. This year, applicants are down by somewhere around like 8 or 10%, something like that. So again, it kind of fluctuates month to month, and I'll have a number for you later on. And then how many PharmCast applications are there? So 36,006. And to give you the stark contrast to this, it is absolutely obscene how different we are than medical schools. And when you first hear the applicant number, I don't think you're going to be too shocked. But when you hear the application number, I would absolutely be shocked. So, and again, this is data for 2021, 2022. So our numbers will actually be a little bit lower because this is 2020, 2021 data. So here are the medical school numbers. So the total applicants, 62,443 compared to our 13,324. So you say, okay, well, 62,000 divided by 13,000. It's maybe like a quarter, so there's maybe a little over close to 5 times as many people apply to medical school as get into pharmacy school. But here's where the big contrast is. So medical schools accepted 23,711. So when you're talking about percentages, okay, you have 23,711 over that 62,443, and you see an acceptance, the ones that accepted right around 38%. Okay, It's not on this sheet, but the percentage that were accepted last year was 88.6, and that's a 1.8% increase over the year before. So if we're going at that kind of 2%, we should expect it to be closer to 90% next year, because this applicant number is going down somewhere between 8 and 10%. So like 1,300 fewer applicants this year, something like that. So when we look at these and we say, okay, well, can I get into medical school? You cannot look at getting into pharmacy school and getting into medical school as similar things, because when you get to the number of applications, so again, there were 13,324 applicants, and 88.6 of them got in, but there were only about 2.7 applications for each one. When you look at medical school, and I had to do this math twice, when you look at medical school, they say, and again, it's the internet, so who knows, that the average medical student applies to 15 or 16 programs. So for 2018, 2019, AAMC reports an average of 16 programs. So this is here from the PrincetonReview.com. So 16 applications per applicant. Well, let's do the math on that. 62,443 times 16, that's 999,088. So close to 1 million applications, just 1,000 short of 1 million applications versus 36,000. And that is a crazy difference, right? That is an insane difference. But let's actually take it to a little bit of a different place, and let's think about residency. When you're going into residency, okay, let's pretend that all 13,324 applicants were applying to residency instead of pharmacy school. How many is the average? And the average there is about 11. So when you talk about 11 applications, that would bring it up to 146,000. So much higher number. So what I guess I'm just trying to say is, if you're thinking about applying to medical school, you've got to think of yourself more as, okay, GPA wise, am I where a medical student would be? And the good news is that that data is actually really easy to find. So when you look at medical schools and their science GPA, it's right around a 3.66, and it just went up 0.01 to 3.67. And then their non-science GPA, 3.82 versus 3.83. Well, how does that compare to the pharmacy students that got in? So again, 3.66 and 3.67 and 3.83, and then for pharmacy school, it was 3.17 and 3.32. So you're really talking about kind of is that an A minus or a B plus? All right, so I had to kind of refresh my brain on that. I do it all the time I give grades, but I don't necessarily calculate GPAs. So the undergraduate GPA of 3.32 is right around a B plus, which is 3.3. And then a science GPA of 3.17, that's getting closer to somewhere between the B and the B plus. So the B is 3.0, the B plus is 3.3. So it almost kind of splits the difference. So it's kind of like a half B plus or something like that. When you look at the med students, though, and their applicants, you see that it is a 3.67. So a 3.67 is close to that 3.7 mark, which is an A minus. And then that 3.83 obviously is somewhere around between an A minus and an A. So let me tell you how hard that is to actually get, though. All right, for simplicity's sake, what we'll do is we'll just say that you took 30 classes or 40 classes to make 120 credits. Each were 3 credits. Obviously, we know that's not true. But you would need to get an A in 30 of those classes and nothing less than a B plus or a B plus in 10 of those classes. So 10 of the classes you can get B plus or above, and then all the rest have to be A's. So when you're talking about those students and their grades, they are absolutely insane. So if you are, kind of that 4.0 student, and I know there are many of you in pharmacy school, then you're in good stead. Medical school is certainly something that's a possibility for you, and it's unlikely, of course, that you're getting, turned away from residency. But that would be the level that you need to be at, is to have that, kind of 3.8, 3 overall, and 3.67. The other thing is you need an undergrad degree. Now, many of you already have that. You just kind of came to pharmacy school a little bit later. But if that's something that you want, then just know that to get to medical school, you have to be that high. The unfortunate thing is that if you're not there, it would be extremely difficult for you to get there because the number is so high and you already have so many credits. So again, just kind of wanted to just give you kind of an overview of, kind of the comparison there. Now, in terms of age, medical school applicants are going to be a little bit older because they all have undergraduate degrees, except there's some times where you can get like your first year of med school is your fourth year of undergrad. But you would expect that the average age is going to be a little bit higher. I didn't see much of a difference between race, ethnicity, and even sex, though females comprise a little over 50% of med school successful applicants, where in pharmacy school it's closer to 67%. Okay. Top majors, biology. I thought this was weird to see pharmacy as a major, but I have seen those as undergrad degrees. Chemistry, biochemistry, and pharmaceutical sciences. That's kind of a disappointment because what we've done is we've kind of pigeonholed those very sciencey groups, and we don't have, and of course I'm really biased, I have an English major or an English undergrad, that we're really kind of not focusing on those liberal arts students that could do a great job, but most English majors don't take organic. So that's kind of understandable. Biggest states in the country line with where people are coming from. That makes sense. And then these tips, some of them don't really make sense, but as I go through them with the students that are thinking about pharmacy school. So school requirements are a little bit different, but what you really want to do is research school achievements. And so you want to have the NAPLEX scores and the residency match rates and those things available. Carefully read all PharmCast instructions. Yeah. Apply early. That is false. You can apply early to some places, but when you have, acceptance rate closer to 90%, you should be applying widely. That's the word they should have there. They shouldn't have early. It's apply widely. Because what you want to do is you want to apply to many schools and figure out, which one's the best one. And then, in terms of residency match rates, NAPLEX pass rates, and then your tuition, which one is going to be the best of all those worlds. And significantly, you have a significant chance of getting acceptances to the places that you would want. Let's see. PCAT scores, that's required for less than a quarter of the schools now, so it's almost a non-factor. Write an original essay. Not really sure about that one. Request evaluations. So all this stuff's kind of intuitive. So anyway, kind of going back to the whole beginning of this, which is, what to do with the rejections. Medical schools may be a possibility for those of you that are high GPAs that maybe didn't interview well or for whatever reason didn't match. But if you are thinking about phase 2, feel free to give me an email at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com, and I'll kind of talk to you about your situation and let you know whether phase 2 is something that would make sense for you. But I will tell you that my bold prediction, and I'll talk about this more in another episode, is that phase 2 will have significantly more openings this year than it did last year. And this is what my logic is, that we've seen a decrease in the number of applications per site, but the sites aren't really inviting many more people than they did last year. So I think that there are going to be many more top students rejecting sites. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a surprise to those sites that they didn't go deep enough into their rankings. But I think that the applicant pool is going to continue to maybe dwindle in its quality as we really start getting into that. We're already at, pharmacy schools accepting 83%. And once we get closer to that 90%, we've seen it already in some of the PICOA scores, early PICOA scores of people that are going to be graduating this year, where it just kind of falls off a cliff. And although PICOA scores are not really well correlated with the NAPLEX, you're just seeing that when you accept close to 100% of the students that are applying, you're just going to have people that are going to struggle with the basic sciences. And I would argue that maybe we should start thinking about pharmacy differently, because really most of what we do has very little to do with chemistry. It has a lot more to do with rhetoric, and that word is usually used the wrong way, but really persuading patients, okay, well, all right, why don't you want to take your medicine? Okay, well, let's see what we can do about that. Or talking with health providers, okay, well, I can see where you're going with that and that line of treatment, but this is why I would recommend this line of treatment. And those types of conversations come from strong backgrounds in the liberal arts and communications and those things, which are completely devoid in the pre-pharmacy. And I'm just not sure how much you really get of that as a class in pharmacy school, because we always have those kind of really weird pharmacy specific classes, the PHARs or PHRs or however they do it. But I really think bringing the liberal arts back in is going to be a big deal. So anyway, get off my stump there. But you need help, TonyThePharmacist at gmail.com.